Welcome everyone to another episode of Too Many Chair Shots, the wrestling review podcast with a 20-year delay. Joining me on commentary, Razorbug.
Hello.
And I am the man with no name, Mike.
Excellent. Slightly better than the horse with no name.
Yeah. He had a whole song about him, though.
That's true.
True. We are back again, and this time we are covering pay-per-view from September 1996, In Your House 10, Mind Games.
Total lack of mind games.
Yeah, I asked Google, I said, Google, define for me what a mind game is. And the definition it's got a noun, and it's a course of psychologically manipulative behaviour intended to discomfort another person or to gain an advantage over them, which presumably in the context of wrestling, it's the latter. You want to gain an advantage over your opponent by disconcerting them with your shenanigans.
Yeah, that's the technical term.
And we saw none of this in the build-up, which we covered on the last episode. And there will be there's only really one instance of mind games in this whole pay-per-view and preceding month of TV.
Indeed.
You have a headline match which has had no build whatsoever. Shawn Michaels is champion, and he's wrestled a couple of people this month, but he's not even been near a ring with Mankind, the challenger, in it. They've cut a couple of one-line promos here and there. There's been more story and more build for the match between Jim Cornette and Shawn Michaels. He's not even a manager, just like his valet, Jose
mentor,
Lothario.
I think he's called at one point.
There's been more build for that novelty mid-card match than there has been for the headline match.
Yeah, which I think kind of speaks volumes at this point about this era of the show.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
So I have a piece of housekeeping to do from our last show, by the way.
Okay.
So the attendance figures back in this era, the attendance was done as like a rating rather than corresponding to actual numbers. So
okay.
If you see an attendance of like 9.6, it doesn't necessarily mean 9.6 thousand or 96,000 or anything like that. It's I don't know if it's out of 10, but it's some sort of rating system.
96% of a full house?
Could be. So, for instance, WWE In Your House, lack of mind games this year. Well, not this year because it's 20 years ago, but this month it's 15,000 in attendance. And
okay.
I think that's revised, accurate figures, not WWE grossly inflated figures.
I think it's impressive that they managed to get an exact number. Like they counted everyone in, and they got to 15,000.
Yeah, that's it. They said no, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're not letting any more in.
We want to say there are 15,000, not 15,007.
Or what would be worse though is if it was 15,000 and one half. Because then there's been a horrible accident with the doors.
So there could be a pregnant lady.
Oh, could be that. Yes.
Yeah. Hornswoggle might be there.
Oh God. It could be the hand.
Hornswoggle is a real person. He's a whole human being.
He is.
He is a normal person. I take back my comment about Hornswoggle.
Speaking of people who are not normal people, Vince McMahon is back on the commentary desk.
He is, and he's going to consistently irritate me.
He's a very confused man in this role.
He is in this whole Mind Games build up and this whole Mind Games pay-per-view. He's the only one really playing any mind games, because that's I think we covered last week on the last episode rather.
Yep.
He is running a sort of dual role at the moment between, on the one hand, he's very much the prominent face of the commentary team. He's like the lead caller.
Mm-hmm.
But he is also writing a lot of the booking with Pat Patterson, and is generally taking care of the backstage and the business side of things. So throughout this pay-per-view, the audience facing Vince McMahon has to query or down talk things that backstage Vince McMahon has clearly put forward.
Indeed, and with him is JR, who's about the same sort of form as he has been for the last 4 weeks.
He's getting there.
He's getting there, and then for some reason, Mr. Perfect.
Mr. Perfect in a less than perfect fitting brown suit and pink shirt.
Yes, indeed. And I think he says about like 10 lines in the entire 2 hours, and they're just all like obviously scripted heelish lines.
And he adds nothing, which is always the problem with a 3-man commentary team. You've got one doing the play-by-play, you've got one doing emotional colour, and then you've got Mr. Perfect, Byron Saxon.
Well, speaking of play-by-play, shall we dive into the matches and
yeah, I mean, even the opening VT like promos was just a confounded mess.
Yep.
So there were 3. There was one for Mankind versus Shawn, which was good. I think it sounded like a very gruff Todd Pettingale doing the voiceover. And that was good. Had a great line at the end of it, like, pray that Shawn Michaels can beat him, pray for him if he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a promo for the sort of undercard, the under main event, which is Undertaker versus Goldust, where they recap the story. And even in recap form, even when you have an edit suite available and the footage and you know the story you're trying to tell, still made no sense whatsoever.
Nope.
It just didn't go anywhere.
And it's not even, and later on we'll come to this, but it's not even like they didn't know how to use the technology or the footage they'd got to tell the story they want, because later on they actually do make it look like Goldust has been playing mind games. For some reason, they just didn't do it for this VT.
Or certainly that Mankind has been playing mind games with The Undertaker during The Undertaker's run against Goldust.
Yeah.
And then after that, the third one was another promo for Shawn Michaels versus Mankind, which was not as good and just detracted from the first one. I couldn't comprehend why you would bother to have 2 promos for the same match, one that's obviously good and one that's not as good, and then squeeze them all together at the start.
Yep. I think we're off to a really positive and encouraging start, aren't we?
If anything, that second one probably should have been the pre-match recap one, because it wasn't as dramatic. It was a bit more, this is what happened. But still, no explanation of how Mankind came to be number 1 contender.
Yep.
Bizarre.
I just don't understand. It didn't even match up with the promos that the wrestlers themselves were going to deliver later. Well, what can I mean? I think I was about to say what can start us off better for an opening match, but I have to say I think there's a joke in here somewhere. When is a John Bradshaw Layfield not JBL?
When he's Justin Hawk Bradshaw.
When he's Justin Hawk Bradshaw, the man whose middle name is interchangeable with his surname, apparently.
This is his first ever WWE pay-per-view match.
Oh, is it? Okay, because there hasn't been any build for him as far as I could see in the week previous to the 4 weeks previous to this.
This first matchup, which is Savio Vega versus Bradshaw in a Caribbean strap match. The reason there's been no build for it is because Vega has fought Marty Jannetty on the pre-show and then got into a bit of a skirmish with Bradshaw, and then they've just gone, oh, well, I'm going to fight you on the pay-per-view in a bit. Then.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of like that, actually. I don't mind that too much. I just thought there was no build at all.
I totally get what they're trying to do. They are hoping that people who have tuned in to watch the free-for-all, who are still sitting on the fence, they can hopefully drag a few of them in with the prospect of this strap match.
I like how the pre-show was nowhere to be found on the WWE network.
I really think they're missing a trick, not having those things as free content, because they would have been free at the time. And for the same reason, it might get you to sort of think, oh yeah, I remember these characters, I remember these people.
Well, it also might put you in danger of actually understanding what the hell's going on.
I guess so. Admittedly, I did have to research why this match suddenly appeared at the bottom of the card. Not that when they booked it, they were thinking in 20 years' time I would have to come back and work it out for myself.
That's true. So I have another question for you. How many different countries has the strap match originated from?
Oh,
Because
quite.
I've heard the strap match being described as from all over the place.
I think most cultures have. I mean, as you know, when a culture evolves through its societal stages, one of those is developing a strap match.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not up on my anthropology.
Yeah, it's so how will we eat? What will we eat? Where will we eat? What time does the opera start? How will we create a strap match?
Excellent.
That's basically how. I mean, you look at for everyone from the Mayas and the Incas right through to modern day Estonia.
And you got those classic hieroglyphs that depict the ancient Ptolemaic strap match.
Up on the top of Chichen Itza, um, offering up bounty for the strap match.
Yes, touching all four pillars of the step pyramid.
All of which is much more entertaining than this match actually was.
Yes, that's indeed the case.
The main focus of this match is totally not the fight that's going on, though. It's about ECW.
Yes, that's I was I did a complete double take when I heard ECW chants in the audience. I'm like,
because they're in Philly.
Yeah, of course. And I'm just like, oh, okay. I didn't think the audience had really got into ECW at this point. And then, of course, it turns out it's the actual ECW wrestlers.
They're the local promotion, so everyone's big on them. So the WWF have put on this strapping match at the start, and they have Tommy Dreamer, Sandman, and Paul Heyman sitting at ringside, and then just within a minute or two of it starting, Sandman spits beer all over Savio Vega, and we get the first bit of Vince's mind games going, a local wrestling promotion, well, we don't want to show the horrible scenes or whatever it was.
His exact lines is, we won't shoot this ugly scene while they're shooting the ugly scene.
Yeah. And you do get a far away shot that shows Paul Heyman trying to restrain Sandman and Dreamer.
Yeah, because Sandman busts himself open on his beer can.
Well, that's his raison d'etre.
Yeah, that's his thing.
He's not much of a wrestler, from what I recall. He's a drinking, smoking bloke that just turns up with kendo sticks.
Sounds about right, yeah.
And yeah, Vince is already at this point not only supporting them with this kind of exposure, he's also supporting them financially.
Okay.
So him and Heyman are already working together. I think.
Do you think this was a work then?
Absolutely, it's completely a work.
I did wonder, why security guards would have let them in with ECW shows.
That's how come they've got ringside tickets.
Yeah.
For the match is because Vince has slipped them. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they asked whoever had those seats to sit out the first match. They're like, "Oh, it's just Vega versus Bradshaw. Go and use it for a piss break or something." And then they sat those guys down there. I meant all through the pay-per-view to try and spot if people had sat down.
They did. Yeah, people sat in those seats. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a bit of exposure for ECW on a pay-per-view that gets them to a bigger audience, that was what this match was for. It was to have a little pop for ECW.
See, I did I completely didn't react when I first saw them because I got so used to seeing Tommy Dreamer in a WWE ring. Now it's like, okay, sure, they're at ringside, and then it only after the security turned up did I suddenly go, oh, maybe they weren't supposed to be there at this point in time.
Yeah. The rest of the match, like I say, didn't really go anywhere.
Vince was playing his own drinking game with how many times he could refer to Bradshaw as Justin Hawk Bradshaw. He never said Justin or Bradshaw. He had to use the full name every time.
It's brand recognition.
It must be.
How you get him over.
It's a good job that still you getting the most out of that brand, isn't it?
Well, yeah, you have, absolutely. And what I thought was interesting is that they kept pushing the idea that a Caribbean strap match is part of Savio Vega's gimmick, it's his thing. And there are not really too many wrestlers who actually have a gimmick where a match is part of that. So you think of the Undertaker and casket matches, and maybe sort of quite a few buried alive matches.
Yeah, you got Kane's Inferno matches.
The Great Khali's Punjabi prison match. I'm not sure. Remember how awesome.
I tried to suppress that.
it's hard enough if you're with a cell match. It's hard enough if you're more than 50 feet away from the cell to be able to see what's going on. So the idea that there's a steel cage surrounded by two more bamboo structures, and is it any wonder that your audience tune out? Because even if you're sat close, you're not going to be able to see much of the action, and if you're sat far away watching it on the big screens, you're just going to get whatever the poor cameraman in there is getting. Yeah,
it was just a terrible concept.
There was a similar match. Oh, here we go. Between Al Snow and the Big Boss Man. I think the storyline for it, what it was there was a steel cage within a cell. I think the Big Boss Man had kidnapped Al Snow's dog and eaten him.
Okay.
And so Al Snow said, "We're gonna have like this. Oh yeah, like this Dogs of Hell match." And what it was, they would fight within the cell, and then within the steel cage, and you had to climb out to where the cell was, get past the Hounds of Hell, and out through the cell door. But again, just nobody could really see what was going on, so the crowd are totally not in on it. And apparently, it's been a long time since I saw it, but I seem to recall the dogs just sit around shitting everywhere and trying to fuck, as dogs do, being animals. And there was no sort of savage, because you expect them to be those sort of dogs you read about in tabloid newspapers that eat somebody because they've been wound up for years. Or like the guy. Have you seen the film Tyrannosaur?
I have not.
There's a guy in that who has a dog tied to his belt, and the dog is insane. I don't know. Like, it's a really good film. It's worth seeing. But I don't even know what they did on set to make this dog go so mental. It's just a well-trained dog, I guess. But yeah, that was more. I digress.
Yeah. A little far from the Caribbean strap match, but I see where you were going. Speaking of which, I did think the ending of this was quite cute.
Oh, that he pulls him and he runs.
Yeah, that he's been basically tagging each post after Bradshaw, and so Bradshaw just yanks the strap and accidentally pulls his opponent to the fourth post. Yeah. It was maybe the match had set expectations suitably low enough for me, but I didn't.
I didn't mind the ending of it. Just next.
Oh, do we really have to?
Next, we had like a backstage spot where Savio Vega got, after leaving the arena for being as the winner, was beaten up backstage in the distance by Razor and Diesel Kane.
Yep.
And then they vamoose, or they end-scray out of there before the camera gets up to them. But JR is adamant that it was Razor and Diesel Kane. And he's like, see, I told you.
And once again, Vince says, I thought it was just a cheap stunt for television ratings.
I'm like, ratings ploy, yeah.
I'm like, stop.
But he signed it off. This is what I'm saying. It's all Vince's mind games. He's giving JR a hard time going, I thought you just did this as a ratings ploy. He knows that he signed off on it as a ratings ploy.
Yeah, but so did they absolutely, were they like sharing the joke with the audience that this is all going to be fake? Because I thought they, for a while, did actually want to convince people that Razor and Diesel were coming back.
They do. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to, because at this time, I think Hall and Nash have been quite honest about it. WCW thought they were going back. WCW thought they were being played. And so we'll be, I would imagine, going through this on the next episode. But on tomorrow night's Monday Night Raw, when Razor and Diesel Kane turn up, at the same time, in backstage at WCW, Bischoff, Hall, Nash are all together in the production truck because they think that Hall and Nash are going to turn up on the opposition show.
But I just think that, constantly going on about how it could be a cheap television rating stunt is kind of underselling the effect you're going for.
Yeah, it was a bad idea, poorly executed, and I don't know. Obviously, it's just at this point nobody is saying to Vince, no.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Like the same problem that WCW eventually have with the other Vince, with Vince Russo, that nobody says no to him, and you end up like talking of novelty matches, like Vince Russo's many noun on a pole matches. So Viagra on a pole. I kid you not. Culminating in the rather fantastic Judy Bagwell on a pole. Yeah, I know. Because who was he fighting? The match is brilliant. It must be on YouTube somewhere. You have to see it. Whoever it is who's fighting Buff Bagwell has been playing some genuine mind games,
actual mind games,
by stalking Bagwell's mother, Judy Bagwell, to the point where, for some reason, Buff Bagwell,
presumably they were stalking his mother to find out why she named her child Buff.
Buff, yeah, nominative determinism. She thought if she named him
That's
Buff,
it. Yep.
he would turn out to be Buff.
Yep.
And for some reason, Buff agrees to a Judy Bagwell on a pole match, but because they can't put Judy Bagwell on a pole, they have a Judy Bagwell on a forklift truck match. It is, I mean, it's way too far and it's really damaging to the image of wrestling, but it is a funny thing to watch, mainly because the interference towards the end of the match comes from David Arquette.
Oh, good. I'm glad when he gets involved in wrestling, it always improves things.
Yeah. Where's Courtney Cox and all this?
Oh, dear me.
Anyway.
So we've got Jose Lothario versus James E. the Michelin Man Cornet. And I was very impressed that just as I was thinking that and writing it in my notes, Mr. Perfect actually calls him the Michelin Man. Yeah. So, excellent.
That's the perfect observation.
That's the perfect observation indeed. They cut to I can't remember if it's a VT or it's a double feature, but there's a WWE phone line that you can call into.
Yeah.
And oh my word, it looks mental. And Sunny just looks like she couldn't be less comfortable being there.
Yeah, with Blue Skeletor.
Yes, with Blue Skeletor, indeed.
Yeah, so this was just, again, it's a novelty match, but it's just it's all over the show. They've got the bits of the premium rate phone numbers that you can call to talk about, to have a red hot conversation with the blue helmet. And at the same time, you've got Jim Cornette cutting a promo where 2 out of every 3 words are Jose Lothario. It's like, we get it, man. You don't need to sell it anymore. We've got to the point where if we're watching this, we have paid for the privilege to do so. You don't need to keep selling who your opponent is.
Well, presumably he's trying to sell us on why the hell we're watching this on something we've paid for. Yeah,
and then Lothario just wins with 2 blatant punches. The ref doesn't say anything. And he gets the pin. And then Mr. Perfect says what we're all thinking as HBK's music plays. Lothario needs new music because he is not a sexy boy. He's an old man. There's nothing wrong with being an old man, but he's not. Nobody's thinking him of as either a boy or a toy.
Yep.
So a good contribution from Mr. Perfect.
Yep, indeed. Just not quite perfect, shall we say. So then we go to Brian Pillman, and I had to write down, I didn't write down his exact line, unfortunately, but I had to make a note of this. He basically implies that welfare recipients are as bad as drug abusers and wife beaters.
I've got one of them where he's ragging on the audience. He says, just look at the illiterate, degenerate scum that sit before me.
Yeah.
Not to talk bad of him, but he has got some nerve having a go at the audience for being drug takers.
Yes.
He's got about a year left. sadly. It's going to be a good year. There's definitely some great angles with him in the next
Cool.
year, but he is going to die of a drug overdose a year from now.
So there you go. He's as bad as wife beaters and welfare recipients.
Somewhere around Too Many Chair Shots, episode 24-ish. 24, 25 maybe. That's
curtains for Brian Pillman.
The big Pillman memorial show. Well, he has a really huge angle which is kind of famous with Steve Austin, which I'm looking forward to seeing again when we get around to that. But that's sometime in the next year. Yeah. But so he starts by cutting a promo on how rubbish Philadelphia are. I mean, I almost think that maybe he was talking about the Philadelphia cream cheese rather than the city.
Oh, that makes more sense. That totally clears that up for me. Thank you.
They show a bit of footage of Bret Hart awkwardly doing a bit of promo from South Africa where he says he's got this because he can't get out a sentence properly. He has to sort of mangle it. So he says, I want to say one thing to Brian Pillman. Brian Pillman, you are a liar. Which is almost sort of Shakespearean in its sort of structure. And then Owen comes out. Yeah, because Pillman says Owen's going to come out, and Owen comes out, and Owen calls him Pill.
And this is really confusing as well, because we haven't quite established whether Owen Hart is supposed to be a face or a heel, because he's over as a face, but he comes down and pals around with a heel.
He's not over as a face though. He's over as a heel. He's just spent the past month hitting people with a fake plaster cast.
Well, this is just it, and we mentioned this last week. But you as you pointed out, like because he's so well liked by the audience, they don't boo him as a heel.
Yeah. It's very odd how it sits there, and their promo is a bit awkward in that they almost sort of are almost close enough that they're sort of pushing each other on and they flow naturally, but it doesn't quite work, and so they just get more kind of stunted lines about. It sounds much more scripted than it probably was because there's unnatural hesitation. Mm-hmm. Going on, and then
we get classic Stone Cold, who he looks so classic he could literally be his own action figure. That's like textbook Stone Cold right there.
And they bam it up a notch and Austin just raises the whole thing by a huge degree, and he's only out for about 40 seconds. And we get another one of. So he has a great line about saying, if you put the letter S in front of Hitman, you'd have my exact opinion of Bret Hart. And
Vince does not like that at all.
Yeah, Vince is like, well, there's no need for that. Except he has presumably signed off on that line being in the promo. So again, it's not surprising that he went mad, really. it must be hard in one day sign off on a load of things and then rag on those things during the evening.
Then cut to a VT Mark Henry strolling around the streets of Philadelphia, stroking things.
He stands next to a horse, and Vince McMahon says Mark Henry's bigger than a horse, but that's
clearly not true.
Clearly, the horse is bigger than Mark Henry.
Well, the thing that got me was like they cut to him stroking a bell, or I think it's the Liberty Bell, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then they cut to him stroking a horse, and I'm just like, okay, so are they just going to cut to lots of scenes of him stroking Philadelphia?
Mark Henry's a very tactile kind of guy. He likes to get up close. He likes to feel things, to understand them better.
Must be right. Well, we're two matches in and a bad promo. How many mind games have been played at this point?
By wrestlers,
none. Total of 0 mind games played. We'll just come back to that. Keep track on things.
Yeah, we'll keep a running tally of how many mind games.
So Owen's back in the ring next as the Smoking Guns versus the Bulldog and Owen Hart.
Yeah, this was the first good match on the card. It opens with a great bit of business. So we've seen Sonny in previous matches much like Rusev today, instead of a big flag, she has a huge picture of herself looking sort of like Sunny does. And when it unfurls before this match, Owen and the Bulldog have done some naughty graffiti on it. They've given her a little bit of a beard and a pair of glasses, and they've written on there, "To Owen and Bulldog, lots of love, Sunny." Brilliant. It's just great because it's a heelish thing to do, to interfere with the other team's entry, but at the same time you're sort of like, yeah, good for you.
Yeah, you're also having a laugh at the fact that you're having a laugh with the audience, and that the ones who think the giant picture of Sonny is great, and then you got the ones who are obviously going to go, what the hell is this about? And then by doing this, you're playing to both. You've got two jokes out of one giant poster of Sonny, so why not? I can't remember which one it is, but one of the commentators keeps it classy by saying that because Sonny's a woman, she likes any kind of gold.
Yeah, I think Perfect.
That doesn't surprise me.
I have a bit of housekeeping from last time. So Bulldog and Owen are managed by Cornette, but Cornette's been knocked out, and so Clarence comes out. Now, last time I at least once called him Clarence Darrow, which is the name of an actual famous American lawyer. But this manager is actually called Clarence Mason.
Yes, because they're doing the whole Perry Mason bit, I imagine.
Well, I think it's those two
right.
things. It's Clarence Darrow and Perry Mason, the two titans of American justice.
Excellent.
I feel like Clarence Darrow might have been the lawyer in the Scopes Monkey trial, which is a very famous American trial about evolution.
Speaking of which, well, not about evolution, but speaking of Mr. Mason, this is the first time I can remember seeing a distraction from the back to start a match.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
So one thing I did pick up on about the third match in, the one thing I really did pick up on is it's really ironic that Vince in the current product has banned the play-by-play commentary style, because he's actually really good at it.
Except for his annoying thing of 5 or 6 times a match when it's clearly not going to be a finishing pin, going, "Oh, he got him." Oh no, he didn't.
Yeah. Well, that's only slightly less annoying than Bradshaw shouting "ball game" every so often.
But with Vince, he's doing it between the 1 and the 2 count. It's not even waited for between 2 and 3. He's got to get the whole sentence in. He has to start way too early to do it. And again, no one's ever said to him, "Don't do that." Yep. That's not very good.
They're still arguing about the Razor Ramon Kevin Nash. It's all about ratings. Vince argues that JR argues it's not. Vince argues it is. It's like, you guys, you're killing your own angle before you even started.
JR calls out Vince on being indicted.
Oh yeah, no, well, that was just like, whoa, okay.
He said, "You got the benefit of the doubt when you got indicted." Just like, all right, mate, settle down.
I think there's some genuine heat between those two at this point.
Well, one of them's... Well, JR is still pretty new, so he is playing the sort of surly underdog to McMahon's sort of established kind of guy. Yeah. But partly, I think that's kind of getting a bit of the reality into it. Like, people do know that Vince has been indicted. It is it's not like it was a big secret. It was on the news.
Do you think they're also using that as a way of sort of, making this, this must be believable because they're talking about something that we've seen in the papers?
Yeah, of course.
So I had to give props to Vince McMahon's knowledge of lesser well-known DC comic superheroes, because he shouts out at one point, "You'd have to be Plastic Man to stretch from one side of the ring to the other."
I feel like he was definitely referencing.
Well, I mean, I don't know what else it could be.
I think it's because he doesn't want to say Stretch Armstrong.
Oh yeah, it could be that.
That would be a brand name, and
that's about about the right time of the 90s for that to be a big thing as well. Yeah. Absolutely. This whole match felt to me like heels versus heels, and that didn't really work. I didn't.
I thought it had all the buildings of a classic.
It was
match
it was a good match.
But... In that you had each team had a quick and fast guy and a big powerful guy, And then sort of the story of the match is watching how the two pairings work out. So when it's Billy Gunn versus Owen Hart, and you get some quick action, and then when it's Bart Gunn against the Bulldog, you get some more slower, lumbering power moves. But then how does Owen deal with being in the ring with Bart? And he does a chop block to Bart Gunn's knee, which JR says is immoral and not politically correct.
Yes, I thought that was awesome.
I couldn't work out if he was lampooning political correctness or just fumfering through his words. But Owen is slowing down his style, and he starts to use holds to keep the powerful man down, which is just good storytelling for a match. He knows that he can't run around and do all the light flying stuff. And definitely it's much better in this match, certainly, to watch Owen versus Bart Gunn than it is the other way round, to watch Billy Gunn against the Bulldog.
Yeah, not helped by one of the worst flying clothesline spots I've seen.
Yeah.
Fails also to actually travel far enough across the ring to make any kind of contact.
There was also a good bit where I can't remember which two of them were down, but Sonny and Clarence are both banging on the mat in unison. I thought that was really good because they've got nothing to lose from banging at the same time, because that's going to wake up their guy as well. I just like that. Good to see Owen and the Bulldog pick up the titles.
I had a question there at the ending, actually. So it ends with Bart, I couldn't quite tell if it was accidentally or deliberate, slapping Billy.
The ending is really stilted. I think what happened is that Billy Gunn comes in too quick to fail to break up the final pin.
Right.
And then has to go the long way round the referee, who also might be in the wrong position, so that Owen can cut him off, when it just looks really unnatural because there was a straight line from his corner to break up the pin.
Yeah, but right before the pin even happens, Billy slaps Bart from behind, and to me that's a blind tag. He's not the legal man. I wasn't sure if that was like that was just a poorly aimed shot, or whether they were actually going for the whole it's not legitimate because you pinned the wrong guy type thing.
I don't know. I don't think so. We'll find out on Raw tomorrow night.
Yes, we will.
Sonny's. So after the Guns have lost it and Bulldog and Owen have left,
Sonny's loses it as well.
Her tantrum promo was brilliant.
They imply that she directly implies that she's given them her time, her money, and then she sort of pauses for pregnant silence and says, and everything else.
Yeah, unfortunately, you cut me off before I could say that her promo had undercurrents of motel spit roasting sessions, which I think is.
I'm not sure if my cutting you off there was a good thing.
It's just a better way of saying the same thing, I think. And if that's true, is Billy an ass man?
Well, yes. He will go on to confess to such things later on.
Well, yeah. So all a bit grubby and seemly. And
thankfully, though, they moved swiftly onto something quite a lot more impressive.
Which was Mankind's basement promo.
Yeah, it was absolutely awesome. And I don't know whether it was a deliberate photographic choice or just a lack of ability to get lights in there, but they didn't overlight the thing. So
absolutely,
you just have Mankind sitting in a really quite dark, grubby corner, and just delivering this, as always, an amazing promo. Although
he had a fantastic line in the middle of it, talking about what he's going to do to Shawn Michaels. He says, "It's my destiny to hear his liver rupture."
Yes.
I'm like, you're going to do surgery on it? Wow.
Also, he goes on to say that Mankind lives to make Michael and his clique suffer. And I'm like, hang on a minute, how can you be living for that when we've seen no mention of that yet?
Yeah.
At this point, I don't think we've seen Mankind or Michaels refer to his clique at all.
I think in one of the promos on Raw, he said he wanted to make the crowd click, because obviously the click in reality is him, Hunter, Waltman, Nash, and Hall. They called themselves the Click.
Yeah,
and then Shawn's fan base got called the Click. But he says that Mankind said in one of his promos, I think, that he wants to make the Clique suffer and feel the kind of pain he has felt. But that's been like the one bit of build, and that was like 3 weeks before this. In fact, it was the post SummerSlam Raw when him and Bearer are doing their "We defeated the Undertaker" and then the Druids bring him back out.
That's right, yeah.
And it's fine.
It's all right.
Yeah.
So, now we've got the second Why Are You Doing This on a Pay-Per-View match of the evening, for me at least. This is Jerry Lawler versus Mark Henry. He's finished stroking things in Philadelphia, and he's in the ring dressed like a giant flag.
I've got. He's dressed like Uncle Sam's beanbag.
Yes, he is, and he's got a giant shower cap on as well, which is impressive.
He's got one of those ridiculous Kangol flat caps that have always seemed really untrendy to me, but I myself have never been with fashion,
So there's a hint of almost a mind game going on here, because they cut to an earlier VT where Lawler is pretending to have a hot cup of coffee, which he staggers forward and throws over Henry, only for it to turn out to be a obviously water. And the commentators at the ringside make a big play about how this is Lawler playing mind games, but no, it's not. It's just Lawler. It's just Lawler being a dick.
It's just a cup of water, and then there's something from the pre-show of them slapping each other on some sort of game show.
Yeah, lovely.
Lawler's entrance is mostly a stand-up routine about wanting to see people drown at the Olympics.
Oh yeah, God, I know. It's given that the chop block earlier was politically incorrect, I'm not quite sure how you define Lawler at this point.
Yeah, well, if a chop block to the knee's immoral,
yeah, exactly.
The morbid sort of desire to see people drowning at the Olympics is probably at least as abhorrent, but.
So Henry is said to have been having butterflies because he's facing Jerry the King Lawler. No, the man is 3 times the size of his opponent. He's not having any kind of butterflies.
I assume they meant like butter chicken.
He might have had some of that.
Yeah, he's been eating butter chicken all day to try and get. Wait, that sounds vaguely racist. Butter chicken is an Indian dish. I'm not talking about like fried chicken.
We don't want to be in chop block territory with that.
Yeah, I don't want them to feel like I don't want them to think that WWE's sort of background racism of this period has washed off on me at all.
Of this period.
Well, of any particular period.
So one of the commentators shouts out that Lawler's got a PhD in mind games.
Presumably from Mind You Tech.
Well, maybe, but I don't know. He's not using any, so we couldn't check his qualifications there.
Someone has taught Mark Henry how to clap in a way that gets the audience to clap along with him. Do you think
that's Wrestling 101? That's the very first lesson?
Totally. The crowd also start chanting USA, USA, but all 3 men in the ring are American. So... I mean, it makes sense if it's Cena versus Rusev. I get it, because you want the American guy to win, not the miscellaneous Eastern European guy. But when everyone in the ring is from the country that you're chanting for, it's like going to watch Chelsea versus Liverpool and shouting, football, football, football. Yeah, we're all here for a football match, and most of us, and everyone that you're looking at is playing football. It's fine.
Yep, do you think it's just like a pre-program thing? You see the Star Spangled Banner, you start chanting.
You
USA.
See the Star Spangled Banner.
Well, you see the Star Spangled Shower Cap in this case.
But isn't the the Star Spangled Banner is the song? You're thinking of the Stars and Stripes. Which
you are correct. That is the song, and I am getting myself confused.
I was going to say, you seeing music, you got synesthesia.
So I do have to give some props to this, because we're talking it down. But when they actually do get the match ongoing,
don't you dare say it was any good.
No, I want the thing I was going to say is Lawler does actually do a half decent job of selling Henry's size and power because
No,
obviously
he doesn't. Lawler's doing all the work, definitely. But what are you seeing from
well
Mark
that
Henry?
might be what I was meaning. Like you can
He
see
just
that Lawler's trying to make him look good.
he just lumbers around and demonstrates a terrifying skill of standing still. Oh no, he's standing still at me. Still.
Quick, I better reach into my trousers and have a damn good rummage around.
Yeah, to the point where Lawler's having to do suicide dives out of the ring into the barrier.
I was really impressed to see Lawler do a suicide dive.
I was really surprised that he did that. But none of that got Mark Henry over. It just got me thinking, oh, nice one, Lawler. Well done.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with my last point. I was quite impressed at Lawler's efforts here. I wasn't so much impressed when he took a good 30 seconds rummaging around in his junk to produce a set of knuckle dusters.
Oh, but that's pantomime. That's so people at the back of because he's from a much older tradition. It's so he can overplay it, so everyone gets a chance to see what he's doing. So that when he then, because if you don't see that and you're not in an arena with a big screen, if you don't see him do the over the top touching my balls thing, then you might wonder why he just punches him and then it's lights out. So he does it for too long so everyone gets a chance to see that he's cheating.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing for me, though, was that the effect is then completely spoiled when JR starts not saying, oh, he's got knuckle dusters or, he's got a weapon or anything. He just keeps shouting he's got something in his right hand.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it's in his hand, it's not going to improve his punching, is it? It has to be on his hand.
Maybe it's got like a sort of an attack +2.
It's an enchanted amulet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he keeps an enchanted amulet in his trousers.
Don't we all?
Is that an enchanted amulet in your pocket?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good. I was worried you were pleased to see me.
And so eventually the match comes to a grinding conclusion with Mark Henry back-breaking Jerry Lawler, at which point there's a run-in from the back as the new
pointless
Rockers.
run-in from the
back.
back.
So Marty Jannetty comes out looking like ballooned off his tits. And is promptly dealt with. Leif Cassidy, who is the other half of the new Rockers, has replaced HBK, comes out. Did you see who it actually was?
I didn't know.
Zal Snow.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Missed that completely.
Or Alan, as his real name is.
I noticed that soon to be eventually Triple H couldn't resist getting involved as well.
Yeah, Triple H is a jobber at this point.
Yeah.
He's coming out at the end of a match to job out Mark Henry as a brute. Of the three bits that Henry does, the bit he does with Triple H is the best because he gets Triple H up above his head and chucks him out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that bit's good. But yeah, it's amazing to think that Triple H, I mean, because he wrestled a dark match against Jake the Snake, I think, on this pay-per-view.
Okay.
So, I mean, he's wrestling dark matches. His only appearance on the pay-per-view is the job for Mark Henry. And this is all still punishment for the Madison Square Garden incident with the Click when Hall and Nash left. So he's being kept really under the thumb.
Right.
And it shows.
Yeah. I really had to applaud Vince's accidentally foreshadowing of him and Henry negotiating a contract, because Vince says we'll be seeing a great deal more of Mark Henry. 20 years later, yep.
Yeah.
That man argued himself a contract that kept him employed with the company for the next 20 years, non-stop.
But that's the thing. He will be able to wrestle for them for his entire life because all he does is stand there. Like, I wish Vince would sign me to a contract to stand in the ring. I can do that. I can do that as well as Mark Henry.
You probably could, yeah.
Yeah. And they've got a bit more lip to me, I'll be a bit better on the mic than
Good.
sort of... to be fair, they're what we've seen of Mark Henry doing any kind of promo work from SummerSlam onwards has been they're trying to play him off as this kind of... a lovable teddy bear.
I was going to say, yeah, they're going for the gentle giant thing, aren't they?
I mean, I think I can't remember if I heard it correctly. I think one of them said he was about 19.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. So I can kind of get that he might. I mean, 19 seems a bit old to still be naive about the world. But then I don't know what it was like to be 19 in 1996. So you'd have been born in 77?
Yeah.
77, 80, yeah. So, I don't know. Innocent times? Have there ever been innocent times? No.
Who knows? Answers
That's
on the postcard.
It's a deeper question than we can deal with on a wrestling review podcast, I feel.
It could well be.
We'll start up a side branch in dealing with the philosophical
Too many chair
question.
shot philosophy.
Too many Descartes.
Okay, so they cut to basically selling the next pay-per-view.
Oh.
And I couldn't tell what they were doing here because they kept going on about how Taker was facing Mankind, but there will be no titles on the line. And I'm like, well, yeah, because neither of them are champions.
Yeah,
and I wondered if maybe they were going completely off script and they knew that Mankind was going to win the title in his main event. And
I think they're trying to make you think, because what they said before that is the key bit. They said that the match wasn't sanctioned by the WWE, as if that made
was obviously nonsense because they're putting it on one of their pay-per-views.
Yeah,
it's not like they've wiped wiped their hands of it
in either the headline slot or the second to last slot. So yeah, they have sanctioned it. It's as if they think they're boxing.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're sort of already caught again, like they did at the start of this month on the first Raw. They're just chucking all the way. They're just ignoring what's going on now to try and tell you what's going on later, as if to say, don't pay attention now. What we've got coming in a couple of weeks is much better. And a Buried Alive match does sound better than a Final Curtain match. I mean, we can get into this towards the end of this match, but just the booking on this has been garbage.
It really has.
The
next VT tries to sell the fact that Goldust has been behind this all along, and he's orchestrated Paul Bearer as turning away from the Undertaker. He's orchestrated Mankind, and
no, he's just not done any of that.
Yeah, and he just hasn't. And then of course you think, well, okay, so obviously that'll be a big thing in the next match. It'll turn out to have been Goldust's plan all along. Nope.
But yeah, during the commentary, JR says, "What kind of relationship do Goldust and Mankind really have, if they have one at all?" Which we suspect that they do. Where does Paul Bearer fit into this triangle? Where does Marlena fit in? Okay, JR. So you're asking what kind of the relationship they've got, and if they have one at all. Well, you're already selling it that he's the brains behind this whole operation, so they must have some relationship. Why do you suspect that they do when all of your build has been about them having this sort of weird relationship? Why are you then saying, where does Paul Bearer fit into this triangle and where does Marlena fit in? What you're talking about is clearly a pentagon with 5 people, not a triangle.
Well, to be fair, they do have a squared circle, so geometry's a bit difficult for wrestling.
And then Vince puts a button on the end of it all and says, "Where does any of this fit in?" And I'm like, yeah, I agree with you, Vince.
Yeah, I agree with
How does any of this hang together at all?
What are you talking about? So, quick update. How many Mind Games have we seen at Mind Games?
From wrestlers, none.
None. Okay, good. Right, well, we're sure to get some more in the next 2 matches because these are the big ones. The one you've all been waiting for, The Undertaker, for some reason, taking on a man in a gold romper suit.
Yep.
In
a Final Curtain match.
Yes, in which 0 curtains are observed.
Yeah, and the finality of this match is in question.
That's a generous way of putting it.
Like the film Final Destination 2.
Yes,
you have a sequel if the concept of finality has been built into the first one.
So my first note on this, I think actually before anyone had even walked out to the ring, I made a note of this. Can you imagine them doing this as the second to last event on a pay-per-view now? Can you imagine the big reveal of who will Undertaker's next opponent at WrestleMania be? Goldust. Now, don't get me wrong, I think Goldust can probably at this point work better matches than Taker can. He's in better shape, but
I disagree.
Well, okay, but it's still such a surreal thing to see Goldust as like your company's near top heel.
Um, who else on the active roster then that we've seen over the past few weeks who doesn't have another match would you have wanted to see the Undertaker fight?
Stone Cold, probably.
Yeah.
But especially with Stone Cold coming out earlier, being very heelish. I think they could have done an angle where Stone Cold basically after the Undertaker comes back, basically Stone Cold steps up and says, you're not the face of fear. You got taken out by a guy in who rocks backwards and forwards. I could take you on any day. That sort of thing.
Yeah, perhaps.
I guess possibly this is just because we haven't really had any build for this. We don't really understand why Goldust is taking on Undertaker, other than they've been told to.
As far as I can tell and recall from actually 20 years ago, the whole start of Austin versus Hart is starting around now, which is why they had Austin come out for the promo.
Yeah.
So my guess would be you couldn't have him fighting Undertaker here because obviously he's going to get into a program of fighting against Bret.
I think the big problem here is that they seem to want to keep their supernatural gimmick people away from their straight up wrestlers.
But they haven't done that.
No.
They've got, because Goldust is not, although he is not straight up, he's certainly not supernatural. And I would argue that Mankind is not supernatural either. He's twisted and he is.
Well, I might be using supernatural, quote unquote. What I mean is, these people with a larger than life gimmick, as opposed to just their gimmick being just that they're a good wrestler.
Okay, yeah. So the people that basically dress up for it, they don't wear sort of their like the Stalker wears his everyday camo in the ring.
Well, yeah, he falls into the thing that you brought up last week, which is the people who are doing it as their like not their day job.
Yeah, I spent a whole day stalking on the swamps. I'm gonna blow off some steam this evening at a wrestling show.
Yeah,
what, you're gonna watch it? No, I'm gonna fight in it. Like I've been saying, I said quite a bit last time. Just the booking of the intertwining of the end of this feud against Goldust and the start of the one against Mankind has just been horrendously botched. They should have switched it a couple of the matches around. So they should have had Mankind severely interfere in Taker's last match of the feud with Goldust, so that the Undertaker, so he gets roughed up by Mankind after beating Goldust, and then have the SummerSlam match in the Boiler Room, and then leave Undertaker off telly for this month. Because what's he really contributed? One match with Salvatore Sincere and sitting up on the runway during a Mankind Paul Bearer promo. You'd have lost nothing by not having him there.
Yeah.
If it appeared as he is going to appear later on in the pay-per-view, you could forget having to talk about the Buried Alive match. So you would have this chronology. So Mankind attacks Undertaker after Undertaker has beaten Goldust. They have the Boiler Room match where it looks like Mankind has got rid of the Undertaker, but the Undertaker comes back at the end of this pay-per-view, much to everyone's surprise, because it's not a surprise really that he's active and on the roster. His manner of arrival is surprising, and then not only do you get buy-in for the next night's Raw because it's massively surprising and you want to hear what's going on, you can go with either of them to do a promo that night and really sell. So you get a bigger audience coming in because everyone's like, oh, The Undertaker, he reappeared at the pay-per-view and because we thought he was dead.
Yeah.
And then have him do a promo along the lines of saying that a casket match isn't enough to put Mankind down. He couldn't put him down in the Boiler Room match. The only way to settle this is for me to put you in the ground. Or have Mankind do the other side of it, say, oh, I savaged you after that Goldust match. I wasted you completely at the Boiler Room match. I took away Paul Bearer. I've got your urn, and you still keep coming back. The only thing I can do is put you in the ground. Either way that you do that, you build up massive. You've got a load of people coming in off of this pay-per-view, so that you're going to expose that story angle to as many people as possible, and you completely get people buying into the concept that these two guys are so opposed to one another that one of them is going to bury the other one alive.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you've said so far.
Yeah, and they just, by sort of switching back and forth between the end of the run against Goldust and the start of the run against Mankind, they've just robbed all of it of any kind of coherence or any kind of drama.
Yeah, there's no concept of less is more here, and less really would have been more because people would have filled in the suspense in their head. Instead, what we actually got was, considering who's in the ring, it was kind of a subpar match.
Yeah, it's Goldust's defense is all other than at one point throwing glitter, like I know what it is. It's Goldust.
It's Goldust, indeed.
Blowing Goldust in Undertaker's face. His offensive moves are all just kicks and whips into the corner.
Yeah, Undertaker is just sort of getting a feel for his striker, UFC fighter style, and his punches don't look as good as they do now.
Yeah, partly that's because JR doesn't quite sell it right for Undertaker. The idea is that he's doing, that's the corner spot where he's punching him in the ribs really quickly. But that's just, he's supposed to be doing it in a frenzy because he can't see.
Right, yeah. The thing for me,
does look good with body glitter though.
Yeah, I was surprised. Yeah, I'll give you that. I was surprised that the body glitter really worked for him. Yeah. I have to say that actual spot of throwing the Goldust, good lord, could it have taken longer to set up?
He's rummaging through his missus's handbag for ages to find it.
This is the final curtain match, right? Yep. What was it you summed up the final curtain match as being last show?
A final curtain match is no countouts, no disqualifications.
There's a key thing there: no disqualifications. So,
why
did they have to distract the ref for Goldust to go and set up for the...
Why was the referee counting things? Why was he doing a count out? Why was he counting the punches? At one point, the referee, Tim White, says to Goldust, after Goldust has just been squashing Undertaker's head with his boot in the corner, he audibly says, "That's your last one." Or what?
Yeah, or what? It's an ODQ.
It's an ODQ match.
He counts and tells them to break the hold, and then at one point physically pulls them apart. It's like, it's an ODQ match. You're only there to ring the bell.
Yeah, you are literally only here for administrative purposes. Just stand there and shut up. Do a Mark Henry. Just stand there and don't do anything.
Goldust completely ruins what could have been an awesome top rope chokeslam by first landing on his feet and then falling on his ass.
Yep.
No sell that one. Match ends like pretty much most of Undertaker's matches in this era. Tombstone, pile driver, arms crossed, pin, eyes rolled back, looking at the camera, tongue hanging out.
But in the days when a finishing move finished someone.
True. Yeah, they'll give you that, yeah. This was a final curtain match. Did we have any sense of a finality or a final curtain coming down?
Only because I've already been told that the pay-per-view match next month is Undertaker
it's something else. Yeah,
yeah. That's what gave me the sense that this feud might be over.
Yeah,
not that Undertaker had because he's been winning matches against Goldust because Mankind has been interfering.
Yeah.
Admittedly, they did a great thing of him coming out from under the ring and then dragging the Undertaker down.
That was good. I did like
that. And
then
the Undertaker coming back out from underneath the ring later. But the Undertaker's got a string of wins against Goldust, so it doesn't really matter whether he wins this one or not. He's up in the series of matches. And I suppose an Undertaker win only makes it a final thing for him. I mean, if Goldust is not happy, he will have to fight him again. I don't know.
Well,
No curtains either.
no curtains. It was curtains to curtains.
Not even in the haircuts or anything.
No. And it spoilt that famous TLC match, tables, ladders, and curtains.
Yep.
So
What about? Hang on. What about that Olympic wrestler, Curtin Angle?
Oh yes, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
So we're nearly at the penultimate match, nearly at the main event. How many mind games have we seen playing so far?
From wrestlers, none.
Yeah, none. Okay. So we cut to backstage, and in fact, cut to the Philadelphia Pride March, I assume, because HBK has a lovely set of earrings. Actually, not one of the weirdest outfits we've seen him in so far, but there you go.
Did you notice that when Jose Lothario came out with him, Jose Lothario's sport jacket had some of the same sort of tasseling that Shawn Michaels has got
I
on?
didn't. That's lovely. I like that.
It's a bit. It's like
you've got
Shawn
to accessorize your managers.
Or that his outfit is a bit like the Borg. It's going to assimilate other fashions.
It's assimilating the three-piece next to it.
Yeah.
So I have a bit of housekeeping, actually, from the earlier match. Well, I'm not sure if I do or not, because what I thought was HBK taking earplugs out of his ears because he was standing close to his pyros. I think it might have been him taking his earrings out.
Ah, that would make more sense.
It's sort of slightly, more tough guy wrestler to be, taking earplugs out because your pyros are so deafeningly loud, as opposed to, unhooking your dangly earrings. But, all power to him.
In his promo, he looked to me like he was out of it.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if he was, because his promo, he just completely unpromotes himself. He actually says, "You can't play mind games with me. I have no brain. I have no idea how to fight mankind." I'm like,
and then later they're going to talk about him as a scientific wrestler.
Yeah, and he just repeatedly says, "I'm thick. I have no brain. I'm all about my looks and not about thinking things."
Yeah, he looks like he's been on a diet of painkillers and wine.
Yeah, exactly. Thankfully, when he gets in the ring, he actually performs much better. So I suggest we jump straight to Mankind versus the Heartbreak Kid.
So Mankind comes out with a casket and all of the druids.
Awesome. Loved it.
So now I'm not sure what team the druids are on.
As we mentioned last week, you just can't get good druid help these days.
Yeah, I mean they're wild. They'll work for anyone.
Yeah,
if you've got the money, they'll do the work.
It's militia druids these days.
Are they like a pallbearer accessory?
That could be it. Yeah, you buy one pallbearer, get 6 free druids.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, huge pop for HBK.
Yeah,
absolutely big. I mean, I knew he was over, but when you compare it to what Mankind gets, it's
a noticeably when his pop against every other one for the whole evening is noticeably higher pitch.
Yeah,
it's just girls screaming.
Yeah, it is very much. So the match starts off at compared to the other matches we've seen this evening, the pace is frenetic. They are properly going at it.
Frantic.
But then possibly not when you think of today's product. I can't really. I think I'm starting to compare the matches we're seeing now to other matches in '96 rather than to modern day matches, which is probably a good thing. But it means that when we get a match like this, it suddenly seems like it's huge amount of energy going into it.
Yeah, it's over these sort of 5 shows that we've watched now, so the 4 Raws and this pay-per-view, there does seem to be a sort of a molasses kind of feel to it. It's not quite ticking along like a well-oiled machine. There's lots of sort of just taking a bit too long with things. There's not quite an efficiency to everything they do, which, again, like we were saying last time, leads to them having to cover 2 or 3 things in a burst, so pushing 2 angles while a match is on, and then these sort of bits in between where nothing's really happening.
But there's in comparison to all of that, this match is a tour de force of when you get 2 great workers in the ring, which is what they can do. I mean, at one point, Mankind is trying desperately to get the mandible claw on. And he is squealing like a stuck pig. It is so freaky, but it's perfect for his character.
there was a great bit where early on where Shawn Michaels is going to just finish it early with some sweet chin music, and like I said last week, Mankind hears him stamping on the ground,
Yeah,
and runs away.
yeah,
And,
it was just perfect response to that.
Yeah, sits on the concrete and cradles the urn for a bit, which
has a quick recharge.
Yeah, well, again, probably has like some HP regeneration on it. +4 or something.
That's his magic orb.
Oh, which is why the Undertaker died without it.
Ah, yes.
It's keeping him alive.
Yeah. Loved the fact that back in this day and age, the announce tables were just tables with a cloth put over the top. Love it.
And the old school hard tables. They're not tables that are gimme to fall apart.
Yeah.
The moment you sort of sneeze on them.
Terrible commentary when they insist on showing a replay that absolutely illustrates Mankind's knee did not hit the stairs, but his foot, right after they say Mankind's knee hit the stairs.
There was an even better bit of commentary where Vince said that nobody has more spunk than Shawn Michaels.
Oh, I missed that. Maybe I blanked that one out. Having said that, though, great psychology from both of them. Shawn Michaels works the leg the whole way through from that point on, and Mankind sells the leg, like even failing to do some moves because he can't take the weight on his leg.
As well as that bit of storytelling that's going on with the physical contest, there is a great magic trick going on as well.
Oh, right.
And it is structured just like a magic trick should be done. So they bring out a box.
I missed the glamorous assistant. Was that HBK?
No, that was Paul Bearer.
Oh, okay.
And they open the box and they take out a thing, and this thing is Mankind. And they say, look, this is a box that will happily fit one Mankind, and I'm opening the box and I've taken out the Mankind and I've shut the box.
Yep.
And then it goes on for a bit, and then they come back to the box and, I'm going to put Shawn in the box, but look, you can see the box is still empty, so we'll shut that. And they structure it to just go back often enough and show you that the box is empty, or just to remind you that the box is there. And that to me is the extra bump, the extra sort of bit on this match. It's not just that they are selling a combative story, they're selling a narrative story with this prop, but without being really obvious about it.
They do this again with the table as well. They get the commentators table up, and you think, oh god, someone's going through a table. Then they have an entire match where the table does not feature at all. So when they finally go through the match, through the table, you suddenly like, oh crap, I forgot the table was even there.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see. I mean, these days, if anyone goes near a table, then they're going through it straight away. Rarely does it get set up, forgotten about, and then just looks like they've accidentally gone through things later on.
Yeah, totally.
I've got here that there was an awesome dodge spot on the apron, but I have little bit more to say than that was an awesome dodge spot. The rope choke where Mankind, ends up with the ropes wrapped around his neck. That looked amazing. It was
but that's how he lost half his ear.
Yes, I do. But
so the ropes were too tight once when he did it. But yeah, that hangman spot is not anywhere near as dangerous as it looks.
No, but it's
more dangerous for your ear than it is for your neck.
But it was the fluidity of how he went into it. Just it was flawless. There was no looking like they were setting something up.
Sure. Which
was great. We took 3 more chair shots.
Yeah.
So add that to the total before we take too many.
That's 4 now.
4, good. Then Mankind they start attacking Mankind's hand, so he can't do the mandible claw. This is another great piece of. Most people, like if they're high flyers, you take their legs out so they can't jump. With Mankind, his most dangerous thing is the claw, so you work his fingers. I liked it.
Working the claw.
It was weird to see a pile driver because obviously this day and age it's been banned as a dangerous move. So to see a straight up old school pull them up by the trousers pile driver, it looked really nasty. Like not look nasty as in they'd done it wrong, but it just looked like it would really hurt somebody.
It just I don't know. I mean, Austin got injured on a pile driver, and I'm sure there have been other people, but I don't think of it as that. I don't think of it as any more dangerous than sweet chin music, really, because if you get that wrong, you break someone's jaw.
In fact, we'd go mentioning Sweet Chin Music. We take our fifth chair shot because we see a Sweet Chin Music chair shot.
Yes.
Although I think it's generous to say it's a Sweet Chin Music chair shot because it's basically just a kick, a jumping kick from the ropes. Because Sweet Chin Music is like a full extension shuffle across the ring job.
None of it seemed sweet or musical to me.
And it didn't hit a chin. It was sweet chair music.
Yeah.
Why did Sid and Vader run in?
So Vader interferes because he's still sore about losing to Shawn at SummerSlam, despite having not mentioned how cross he is since the Raw afterwards, and has not been bubbling up with anger since then.
He looks like a man who bubbles with anger.
I don't think we even saw him on any of the episodes of Raw.
I don't think so.
Other than when he came out with Jim Cornette to have his exhibition match on whichever Raw that was. And then when Vader comes in, the reason Sid comes in to get Vader is they've had a dark match on this pay-per-view.
Oh, I see.
So if you paid for this show, that would make no sense. The only people that even vaguely made sense to were the people who were at the arena so early that they saw the 3 or 4 dark matches that were on.
Good. Excellent storytelling there.
But all of this is the final bit of misdirection in the big magic trick. So Mankind now wants to put Shawn into the casket. So while Vader and Sid are tumbling off to... Sid is doing ridiculously pantomimed big ham hock punches to Vader's head that just look wonderfully ridiculous. So Mankind says to Paul Bearer, "I'm going to put him in the. I'm going to put him in the urn. Blimey,
that's a tight fit.
That's what she said. I'm going to put him in the casket." And so Paul Bearer struggles as if the casket lid's really heavy, but when he opens it, the casket that we've seen be empty 3 or 4 times now has the Undertaker in it. How did he get there? How did that happen? And it's magic. Yeah, the Undertaker. Now he's going to get Mankind, and he just pushes him out of the ring, and that's the end of it. So we finally get one mind game,
indeed,
of psychologically surprising both the audience and the wrestlers by appearing in a box that we previously thought was empty, and it's played for nothing. Yeah, we already know they're having a match at the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's what really got me.
They've already been telling us.
It was that's just ruined the ending of this. It's like, well, as soon as you tell me there's going to be a match, they've got to get in a feud at the end of this pay-per-view. So I just sat there going, right, when's Undertaker coming then? All right,
at least he didn't do a run-in.
Yeah.
But as I said, if you'd have left him off TV for you'd be one match down for content. You could easily have put, I don't know, Triple H and Mark Merrill or something in, and it would have been fine. And you'd have put much more of a bang on the end of this pay-per-view in a way that pulls people along with you.
Yeah, because the next week you got people who didn't get the pay-per-view hearing from all their friends who did buy it. Oh my God, did you see what happened at the end of the pay-per-view? You can't ever predict what they're going to do.
Undertaker's back. He's not dead like they said.
Yeah, that gets buys. When suddenly they think, oh God, I've got to buy this pay-per-view because I could miss out on these totally unpredictable things. But no, because you told them about what was going to happen at the next pay-per-view at the beginning of this one. Yeah. Have you noticed that Vince had lost his voice by the end of the night?
Yeah, he was getting a bit sort of comedy McMahon.
Yeah, he started trying to go back to his sort of, well-spoken boxing commentator voice. And obviously clearly couldn't do it because his throat was so sore. So he went into, like you say, growly McMahon. Yeah. Which I thought was quite amusing, but there you go. But having said that, though, overall, this was a great match.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't hear about it a bit more often as being career highs for them. I mean, it's kind of on a garbage show in general. There was 2 good matches. The tag match and this one were the passable matches. Even the Undertaker match was not that great. No. It's only watching Undertaker's varied moves against Goldust's boring kick and whip moves that makes it any good, and you could get that from any Undertaker match, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a shame that it kind of disappears and it's not thought of as this great match between them. And I've seen quite a few of Mick Foley's anthology and retrospective ones, and I don't recall ever seeing this in there.
No, I've actually got Mick Foley's greatest hits on DVD, and it's I don't believe it's on there.
And I bet it's all later stuff, isn't it? I bet a lot of it's
actually most of it's earlier stuff. Quite a few bits of it are like ECW stuff.
Oh right, okay. So it's a I suppose once WWE had bought everything up, they could do that.
Mm-hmm. I think for me the takeaway from this is basically you had a wrestler who could really steal the show in HBK, going in there with a guy who so loves wrestling that he puts his body on the line every night, and just probably gave HBK carte blanche. Just said, you can call anything, you can hit me with anything, I will do. I'll take whatever hits you wanna set up.
They very quickly got into the exposed concrete and the crossbody from the top.
Yeah,
that was a really early spot in that match. It was nice to see that early on to set the tone for the rest of the match. It was just good to see them wrestle a 25-minute match as well.
Absolutely.
I didn't think it was going to go.
It never felt like it was going long either, and it never felt like it was rushed for that matter.
I had thought that it being a 2-hour pay-per-view, that the matches might be a bit shorter, but there's plenty of filler.
Indeed, yeah, it was in danger of becoming entirely filler.
Yeah, the moral of the story here is that good wrestlers who can put on good matches is not enough.
Yeah.
You've got to. I'd have been happier with the Undertaker Goldust match if it had sort of meant anything. If it had had some kind of storied reason to it. If there'd been more to the speciality match of it. If there'd just been anything to it other than a confusing mess.
Well, it's a classic case of show don't tell. The only reason we knew that this match was important is because they kept telling us it was.
Yeah, well, I guess
they kept saying, "Oh, it's the final curtain match,"
Well, that's just poor explanation. That's like Steve Jobs saying like, I don't know, eyeglasses. Eyeglasses are a thing. I'm trying to think of a thing that you can put the letter I in front of that isn't already a thing.
Eye turnips.
Yeah. So him going, eye turnips, and you're like, what's eye turnips? And then he goes, it's just a turnip. And you're like, oh, I thought it was going to be something interesting, but it's just obviously turnips. Why keep calling it a final? I'm sorry, I'm belaboring this point. Why give it a name, a good name, and not go any further with it? Why just go, oh, it's as if somebody noticed that Final Curtain worked for both gimmicks, and then that was just enough.
I think that the fact that someone thought of a good name and then just didn't have a reason to call it that sums up this entire pay-per-view.
Yeah.
This was 1996 WWE or WWF, I should say, in your house, Mind Games, and we got grand total of how many Mind Games?
From wrestlers?
Yes. One. Okay, good. Excellent.
And even that was not much of a mind game.
No, it was, really. As you said, it was more of a magic trick.
Yeah.
Well, that was the month that was, I guess.
Yeah. Try harder, WWE, please. I'll want a better month next month.
C-, must try harder.
So we'll be back next time with the next 4 episodes of Raw, and then I think it's another In Your House. I should have looked this up before.
This is Buried Alive next.
Oh, of course it's Buried Alive, because that's how effective their selling is. In Your House 11. Buried Alive.
Yep. Presumably, if it's anything like the title versus content of this match, 0 burials will happen.
Oh, if anything, someone will be unearthed dead. It's somebody will be dug up dead.
WWE dug up dead.
Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't have put it past Vince at a certain point.
Still wouldn't put it past him now.
Rob the grave. Oh, I've got a feeling they did do that in year after next when we get into Kane versus the Undertaker. At some point, Kane is going to dig up their parents and set fire to them on Raw.
Oh, wow.
I know that sounds like it would be too horrific even for WWE at the time, but I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. They're going to immolate a couple of corpses.
Wonderful.
Look forward to that.
Keep it too many chair shots, people, because we're going to be immolating corpses in the near future, apparently.
That should so be our tagline. Too many chair shots, immolating corpses for 20 years.
Since 1996.
Totally.
Fantastic.
Well, till next time then.
Indeed. Goodbye.
Adios.